Hello, good morning, everyone. And hello, Greggy. How are you?
Good morning, Kitty. I'm going well.
Wonderful. Well, today I'm very privileged to be able to interview this inspiring farmer Greggy Dennis. And he's basically someone that I actually met through an author's retreat. And he has told me a lot about his farm. And let me start off with his bio, and you'll be able to understand where he's from and a lot of his story from his bio, but also through this live, which we're going to be sharing about the importance of full-fat dairy milk and how the industry has affected the health of many people. So let me get started with Farmer Greggy's formal bio. Mr. Greggy Dennis, affectionately known as Farmer Greggy, has had an exciting few years since the launch of For Real Milk. He has appeared on leading Australian TV programs, Landline, Today, Sunshine, Sunrise, and The Project, as well as the UK's Click, has had several radio and newspaper interviews. This all culminated in his being awarded Australian Dairy Farmer of the Year and his story, Saving the Family Farm, named Australian Marketing Program of the Year. That's fantastic. And Greggy's decision to cut ties with his milk processors and go out on his own enabled him to keep his fourth-generation family farm. Greggy then set about creating a superior product. The milk is minimally processed and the cow's well-being has been considered in every part of the process. His businesses provide jobs for local people, now in excess of 20 employees in a variety of positions between farm and factory, and that's amazing. And also, it gives inspiration to other small businesses as well. So Scenic Rim For Real Milk also became the very first nominee to win back-to-back platinum awards, and congratulations. And at his region's annual Business Excellence Awards as well. He also provides education to the many visitors through his on-the-farm tours. And the robotic dairy farm has become a destination to over 20,000 people every year. Greg is passionate about the dairy industry and his fellow dairy farmers as well as small business in general. He shares his story to encourage and educate others on how the large corporate are crippling various industries. It isn't just the dairy industry that is being affected. So, Greggy, thank you again for being on live with me. And I'd like to first...
Cool, great to be here, Kitty.
Ask you some questions about, where your history came from as being a farmer. So you're what, second generation? How many generations of farmers?
No, I'm fourth generation dairy farmer.
Right.
That I'm aware of, but going back into the 1800s, nearly everybody in the country areas used to milk cows. So,
wow.
Originally the Dennis family came out to Australia from Cornwall in England in the 1850s, and that was my father's side of the family. My mother's side of the family are of Scottish, English, and Irish descent, so we're a real mixture. And Mum's family were also involved in the dairy industry.
Wow.
So and then my nan, my father's mother, she also grew up on a dairy farm, so her family. So certainly through just about every branch of the family, there's been involvement with the dairy industry. And we've been on the property we are on today since the 1930s. So my grandfather and my great uncle Henry, they started the dairy farm where I am today.
Right.
My dad and uncle were born here in the 1940s. Continue to work full time to this day. They're both in their 70s, and they love what they do, but their body's telling them they need to slow down a little bit now. They still work 70 hours a week.
Wow.
And I've been here since I was born. So yes, I grew up on this farm as well, and my kids have also grown up on the property here. I have two children, one now at uni and one going into high school next year.
What a legacy. Wow, fourth generation. So you must have had a lot of teaching experiences from your father and about your grandfather and all that. I understand that you're passionate about educating people about why dairy fats are good for the human body, and also the importance of using non-processed milk, as well as looking after your cows. And recently
Sure.
you've written a book called Holy Cow, which I love. So tell us a
Yes.
bit about your passion about why you want to educate people about dairy fats.
Well, it's really interesting, and a lot of my recent experience in the last few years, I believe that the new direction I'm heading in now is really compliments of a diagnosis of clinical depression
Okay,
7 years ago.
right.
And when I hit that very low point in my life, and I was questioning everything that I was doing. I was really analysing what is the point of what I do on a daily basis. I felt quite defeated at the time. I felt as though financially our family farm may not survive.
Uh-huh.
And I was probably left feeling as though, in general, dairy farmers, agriculture isn't being supported by the people, because we're allowing massive corporations to re-educate people how to spend money. And of course, cheap, cheap and down, down are slogans that ring in everybody's ears these days.
Yes, of course.
When it comes to fresh food, fresh food, real food has a true value. And so that started to stimulate in me a desire to educate, a desire to share my story with people.
Okay.
And then the other thing I learnt, which was critical to, I'm very authentic. I'm very transparent. And I need to be able to connect at an emotional level with anything I do.
Yes.
So if I don't believe that I'm doing something for the right reasons, I just won't do it. When it comes to the dairy industry, coming out of depression, I felt as though I'm just a dairy farmer, and who really cares about the dairy farmer? But then I started to understand, and I learned a lot about the health benefits that people are today seeing from dairy products. And, especially we're now relearning that animal fats, saturated fats, are extremely important to our physical and mental well-being. So, dairy industry as a whole went through a very tough time in the 80s and 90s when we were misled to believe that saturated fats were creating heart disease and cholesterol was a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
Those theories are all being dispelled now, and now there's very, very solid science coming out that suggests that there was never a correlation between cholesterol or saturated fats contributing towards coronary disease and heart attacks. So I think that it's really important that we embrace this knowledge that, we're relearning virtually. We already knew this going back a century ago.
Yeah.
And dietary recommendations were changed on the back of what is recognised today as bad science. And, I can talk a little bit about that. And there was a fellow called Ansel Keys in the USA. He embarked on research after World War II. In the 1950s, actually, he started to do research into what was causing coronary disease.
Uh-huh.
And his findings, he actually cherry-picked studies from certain countries that matched the data or matched the research that wanted to prove his theory.
Okay.
But what he did is he cherry-picked, he discredited data from countries that didn't match his findings, and what he used 7 countries in a study instead of the original 22 countries, because the 7 countries that he used showed evidence that saturated fats and cholesterol were contributing towards heart disease. And there were other countries where high levels of saturated fats were in the diet with very low incidence of heart disease, and countries where there was high incidence of heart disease that people weren't consuming saturated fats.
Mm.
So since then, we've really learned that, you know, a lot of that issue has got more to do with us refined carbohydrates and
Oh,
sugars. You know, excessive levels of cane sugar, and especially in the USA, high fructose corn syrup.
oh, definitely.
Those products are creating massive problems within the human body, and we now see the obesity epidemic. You know, we see type 2 diabetes spiraling out of control, even in children not even 10 years of age.
Yes.
We see non-alcoholic fatty liver disease for the first time really in documented human history. I mean, 6,000 years worth of human history. We're now seeing non-alcoholic fatty liver disease in children. That is because of what we're inflicting on ourselves by our dietary choices. And that's all happened because we changed what we thought was a healthy diet on the back of Ansel Keys' research.
Mm. Yes, I mean, as a health and weight management coach, I understand also that a lot of people just go through like skim meal and think that they can skim or skinny meal and they can then lose weight. And they don't understand that it's actually like what you said about, you know, the bad carbs and the sugar that is really causing the issues. And I also understand that there's a common assumption that full fat dairy stuff like cheese and yogurt and milk it's you know, bad for us, but I understand that it's not. It's actually neutral, and in a lot of cases, like the research that you've shared with us, in fact, you know, it's not has not got any problem at all. So it's something that I think needs to be unlearned and re-educated, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and there are, you know, there's a lot of good information available today.
Yes.
The roadblock here is that the information is shared to the mainstream according to whoever controls the flow of money. And what we see in big business is whatever is in their financial best interest is what they will choose to share with the wider community. So there's some, you know, there is some very good trials being done, and people have had incredible experiences of their own with the likes of the HWF diet, the low carb, high fat diet, you know, and that's been a trend now. It's not a fad, it's definitely a trend because it works, and it's been working incredibly well for over 10 years. You know, people that have moved towards paleo.
Yes.
You know, there's a variety of different diets, and we're getting back to what the human body is instinctively over many, many centuries, thousands of years, in fact. You know, we've evolved to be able to digest and process certain foods.
Yes.
And the whole failing health system today is on the back of what has really changed in the last century. In fact, probably just the last few decades, and that is the way we've gravitated towards a very high component of our diet being simple carbohydrates and refined sugars. And I heard the analogy recently: if we were to look at documented human history, we've effectively only been eating. If we said that in the entire human history was, no, I need to look at that analogy again. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I just watched a clip last night, Kitty, but it was explaining just how very short a time frame it is that we have been eating such a high level of sugars and so many grains in our diet. You know, a lot of the seed oils that we are eating today, just not healthy for the human body. When we look at, you know, a century ago, people would eat lard or tallow, which are animal fats, or just use butter. Or, of course, you know, the Mediterranean diet, so heavily reliant on olive oil, which is an incredibly healthy oil for the human body.
Yeah. Any oil that is, you know, fat, high fat dairy, and also good fat is really good to the body, and in fact easier to help us lose weight as well. I also believe that fat really doesn't make you fat. It's actually not about dairy fat or any fat is more refined sugar and, carbohydrates that's turned into sugar. So that's why, I personally advocate low GI eating and good fat as well. And I think that to learn, from chatting with you about full fat dairy milk is really affirming what I personally believe, because in the past, so many people, like especially as we've discussed, and you always talked about, and from the 50s onwards, all this bad science is trying to do it as a result of wanting to put money in their pocket. It's just like a lot of pharmaceuticals trying to actually give drugs to people or medications as a way to help people so-called cure diseases, but in fact it's just masking the symptoms. What we need to advocate is wellness industry, I believe, is like a revolution. And it's just like the same thing as you having real milk as your brand, to be able to help people to understand the importance of not having processed milk or processed food for that matter. So
yes.
Weight loss, a lot of people think, if I want to lose weight, then I'm not going to have any kind of fat or dairy, and that's just a myth. I also believe that's the case. Yeah.
So it's interesting, Kitty, in a lot of your work on a daily basis, you would probably find today that wellness is really being overlooked as a sustainable lifestyle choice. And a lot of the health industry is based on sickness, illness.
That's it.
So what we see, the big machine is promoting for people to stay unwell because they're developing the medication that we then become reliant on.
Exactly.
So we make very poor lifestyle choices, and the easy solution, the quick fix, is to take medication.
Yes.
Rather than, like so many of our degenerative diseases today can be resolved just by a little bit of hard work and dedication on our part.
I totally agree. Yeah.
And in my own situation, I've resolved a couple of serious health issues, and one of them 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with extreme hypertension.
Okay.
And I had blood pressure of about 180 over 120.
Wow.
So anyone who understands blood pressure will know that's not real good. Of course, the immediate solution was to take medication. That was the recommendation. But for me, I knew I had some poor lifestyle habits at the time. I was drinking 6 to 8 cups of coffee a day.
Whoa.
And then I was balancing out the caffeine with some beer after lunchtime. So, just try and balance the caffeine with the alcohol. Really clever. And, at the worst of the time when I was doing that, I was probably drinking nearly a carton of beer a week, constantly on weeknights for no reason. But that had become a crutch for me, I was getting propped up with caffeine and alcohol.
Oh, wow.
And I did not take medication. I cut back to 1 or 2 cups of coffee a day.
Good.
I'm actually right at this point, and just working out the days, I think I'm about 67 days sober. So I chose to stop drinking completely a couple of months ago. Thank you. And I also recently did a detox program, which I'm talking to a number of people now on this detox program called Trio Detox. It's helping people kick addictions of all different kinds. One lady was drinking 3 to 4 litres of Diet Coke a week. Somebody else had a huge caffeine problem. Somebody else was drinking too much alcohol and smoking marijuana. In my case, I don't feel the need to drink at all, and I'm totally fine with other people drinking. But I think these lifestyle changes have made a huge impact. Now, I brought my own blood pressure back down to 119/75 just by changing my eating and drinking habits.
That's amazing, because a lot of people think of healthy living is about if they're already sick with medications, like you said, but definitely lifestyle choices are the most important things. Like I teach my clients about a program called Transition Lifestyle System, which is TLS, and that's all about lifestyles, because it's not sustainable if you only just, take medications or try and sort of have some quick fix. And it's so important to understand, as you already alluded to it, that, the differences between sickness industry and wellness revolution. Because if we're sick and we try to use medication to mask the symptoms, it may work for a little while. But if you don't change the lifestyles, you will never be going to become well again. So we always talk about 0 being no symptoms of any kind of illness or addiction or issues with your health. 5 is your vitality is, to the top, like very, very, very well. And you just feel, on top of the world, jump out of bed every morning and you have a lot of energy. Negative is like, when someone has cancer and they cannot really, they'll be in bed the whole time, that kind of thing. A lot of people, when they are actually in 0, they don't have any symptoms. They think then, oh, I'm healthy, I don't really need to do anything. And so then they look at, the way of their lives and they say, oh, I'm doing well. And so that's why I can actually, do a lot of things, indulge in, bad eating habits, or like in your case, you were talking about previously, you were, drinking and coffee, a lot of coffee and wine and all that. But it's really good that you're able to get out of that situation and be choosing good lifestyle choices. Well,
I think, Kitty, like also with ever since my diagnosis and recovery from clinical depression, I'm acutely aware of what my body's telling me. I'm always paying attention to what is happening.
Fantastic.
And, but I've still slipped back into some poor habits, and I've always looked to resolve them without medication. People do need to get expert or professional advice, but I have weaned myself off antidepressants. I don't take antidepressants anymore.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And a lot of people would be led to believe they need to stay on them for the remainder of their life, when the truth is, if we make real food our medicine, that we can get things back in balance where they need to be. But I think that a big problem with human nature is because we are instinctively hardwired for survival, then survival doesn't mean optimal health. It just, we can be treading water. And a lot of people, until they really hit a crisis point in their life, or, until they bottom out, they don't see a need or don't have a desire to make the changes in their life. So they will tend to just go for the quick fix or the easy solution. And a lot of people are like that with addictions, until they're ready to help themselves, no amount of advice or assistance from outside will make an impact on those people. So for me, I think I am very aware of what's happening, and I'm just getting to a point in my life now where I do not want to be reliant on the health system in the future. For I want to work on my well-being so that I stay healthy and well, and I'm not reliant on a system that's failing, because so many people are getting sick today. And they're just getting that Band-Aid. Even you would have seen it a lot in your own industry. And when it comes to obesity, the number of people that opt for surgery to resolve their very poor lifestyle choices. And what actually happens if, quite often, not always, but quite often, people who undergo surgery to resolve their obesity issue don't change their lifestyle.
They don't. No.
And they finish up back where they started despite having surgery. So there's, we've got to get much deeper to the root of the problem and change our habits. And that's where, when it comes to dairy products, when it comes to full fat dairy products, we know that within the saturated fats, within animal fats, there's 3 main things. There is flavour, there are enzymes, and there are nutrients. And what we did with our whole low fat fad is we removed the fats. So we just took all the flavour out of our food. We replaced the flavour with sugar. Sugar does not contain enzymes or nutrients. Sugar is just hollow carbs. The other thing, because the fats contain enzymes, that helps you digest everything you eat. If you remove these enzymes from your diet, so when it comes to low-fat dairy products, they are actually in excess. They're dangerous to the human body
Mm.
because we're now unable to digest what is in those low-fat dairy products. And yes, generally they are higher in sugar because we removed the fat. So they're not filling, then you feel hungry, you're
Yes.
constantly craving more food with a high carb or high sugar diet. The fats in food are much more filling.
Yes. And so your for real milk is from your holy cow.
Yes. So the book Holy Cow is,
Tell us about it.
I guess it's a play on words, and it is my first published book. It is it's a combination of stories through my life. So it's part light entertainment, but there's a lot of my life experience and learnings in the book. I talk a lot about growing up on the farm and how my name Greggy came about being. As all my friends know me as Greggy. I speak about my different experiences on farm and with sport, which I love. And I was actually a DJ for 10 years, playing music at weddings, parties, pubs, clubs. And then also I talk a lot about the broken system today and how capitalism, is really failing. We're seeing corporate greed controlling the way the money flows for all the wrong reasons. So I'm very big about getting back to rebuilding communities, reconnecting people from the city with people from the country. We need to have a level of respect where if you want to live in a city, and 99% of people in Australia do, that's fine, but you must remember, and last time I checked, 100% of Aussies eat food.
Oh, yes, I think so.
100%. And the food comes from the farmer. So we need to have a strong bond between city and country, because farmers want to keep producing food for the people who want to live in the city.
Yes.
We have no problem with working the long hours, putting in the hard yards and producing that food. But we need to work together on this. We need a level of respect and support. It needs to be a two-way street.
You're so inspiring. And I look forward to reading your book. I've already purchased a pre-release one, so I'm looking
Excellent.
forward to reading it.
And likewise, Kitty, your book is also being launched at the same time as mine. So so we should catch up in Melbourne for the launch, and there'll be a number of us authors that were on that retreat together, which will be fantastic in September. We'll be catching up.
Yes. And
Excellent.
now, finally, I know this exciting news that you've shared with me, and that is that in November, you're going to go to the US to share in this special conference, right? It's the
Yes.
Obesity and Weight Management conference. So tell us about that before we end today's broadcast. And I think it will be something that I personally would be very interested in learning more.
Yeah. Look, so exciting to be invited to speak in the USA. That conference is actually in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, yes.
And so what I am doing, I'm drawing the connection with obesity and dairy products, and how we were misled by bad science, and now there is so much solid research promoting the fact that full cream or full fat dairy products are good for our health.
Yes.
And as you said before, at best, absolutely neutral towards the impact of obesity. There's no correlation.
Exactly.
So I'll be speaking about that, but while I'm in the USA now, because I will have the book Holy Cow, I'm also going to make some connections with our coach, our author coach, Natasha Denman, has recently been touring the US, and also some of my dairy industry connections. I will be doing a little bit of a Farmer Greggy roadshow while I'm over there. So I'll be doing a few additional speaking gigs in the US.
Can you put me in your suitcase?
Well, I might need a crew to help me get organised. So you never know what might happen. You might have to come and promote your book, and we do a dual speaking gig.
And weight loss is something I'm passionate about, helping people to overcome as well. But anyway, so maybe.
Yes. So that'll be all happening in November, and I guess now I'm looking at staying over there for a couple of weeks while what's happening, and really just looking at sharing the message that helping people understand
Yes.
the importance of our choices when it comes to our health and wellness, and finding, you know, the right information is critical these days. There's never been information more readily available than today with the internet. We can find all the information we need within minutes. You know, it's all right there. But the trick is finding what is true and what is not.
Exactly.
It's easy to be misled. So we just want to keep spreading the word and help people understand and sift the truth from the fiction.
Oh, definitely. Wow. Thank you so very much.
Awesome. Good to chat today, Kitty. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And we want to follow you. I'll just put a link of your Facebook page so that people can actually get to know you more about you. And one of these days, I'm going to visit you in the farm, this city girl going to.
Looking forward to it. We're in a nice part of the world in sunny southeast Queensland. You being a Melbourne girl, you'll really appreciate our weather.
I think so, for sure. All right, then. Thank you, Farmer Greggy, and we'll keep in touch, and you take care of yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, Kitty.
Okay,
Talk
bye-bye.
soon. Bye.